Marvel just trademarked World War Hulks, right alongside names like Nova and Ghost Rider. For fans, that was a subtle but pretty clear hint at what projects the studio is lining up for the future. Nothing's been officially announced yet, but multiple sources claim that a World War Hulk adaptation is indeed on Marvel's slate and could arrive sometime after Avengers Secret Wars. That means we're not seeing it anytime soon. The most realistic release window looks like late 2028 or maybe even mid-2029, and knowing Marvel's track record, nobody would be shocked if it gets pushed back another year or two. Still, it's obvious Marvel has big plans for Hulk. Think about it, by the time this movie comes out, it'll have been almost 20 years since we last had a proper solo Hulk film, and that was with a different actor entirely. Sure, Hulk's been an essential part of the crossovers and one of the original Avengers, but his second standalone project has always felt just out of reach. And yet Hulk is one of the most iconic and foundational characters in Marvel history, the kind of classic figure that bridges the old phases of the MCU with whatever's coming next. The comics offer a massive amount of material to pull from. Hulk has dozens of story arcs that would work perfectly on the big screen. A lot of those arcs even focus on Bruce Banner at a more mature stage in life, which lines up really well with Mark Ruffalo. He can naturally play a version of the character who's wiser, but still carries that same raw, uncontrollable fury. In fact, with age, Hulk could actually come across as even more powerful and more compelling, both physically and emotionally. And that's exactly what fans have been asking for: the return of the Savage Hulk. Let's be real, Hulk's MCU journey has been kind of weird. We went from the raging, unpredictable monster straight to Smart Hulk, a version that didn't exactly win over everybody. But the demand hasn't changed. People want Hulk back in his primal, destructive form, the version who can single-handedly take on an entire army. And World War Hulk feels like the perfect stage for Marvel to finally deliver on that. So why did it take so long to finally get a second Hulk solo movie? The answer is simple: rights issues. For years, Marvel didn't have full control. Universal still held partial distribution rights for standalone Hulk films. That's why the character could only show up in crossovers. Only recently did that situation change. The rights reverted back to Marvel Studios, and now the only thing Universal might get is a small cut of the box office, while Marvel has full creative control over the project. That doesn't necessarily mean the new movie will pick up right where Hulk's old MCU storyline left off. It's far more likely that World War Hulk will act as a kind of soft reboot for the character, something closer to the spirit of the comics. The real direction will only become clear once we see what happens in Secret Wars and how it all wraps up. Still, the fact that Marvel trademarked the name World War Hulk specifically could be a sign they plan to adapt that exact storyline. In the comics, World War Hulk is actually a direct sequel to Planet Hulk. And here's the interesting part: Mark Ruffalo himself once teased that Marvel had considered adapting Planet Hulk years ago. That would have been the perfect movie to explain Banner's disappearance after Age of Ultron and his return in Thor Ragnarok, since that's when he ended up on Sakaar. But instead of a full movie, fans only got a couple of throwaway lines explaining what Hulk had been up to. Marvel did revisit that idea later in She-Hulk, when they suddenly introduced Hulk's son, Scar, but there was zero real backstory, no explanation of how he came to be, no proper development of his arc. And let's be honest, the show itself didn't exactly land with audiences. We don't want a sitcom, we want an epic big screen movie that puts Hulk front and center again. So what's the most likely path forward? Marvel could play it safe and start World War Hulk with a quick flashback, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, to cover the essential Planet Hulk story beats in MCU canon. That way, they could show what happened on Sakaar, how Scar was born, and what Banner was doing during that missing chunk of time. It would neatly close the gap between Age of Ultron and Ragnarok, and from there, the movie could fully dive into the events of World War Hulk. And what exactly sparks a full-on World War Hulks in MCU? Chances are, the multiverse will play a huge role, especially if this movie comes out after Secret Wars, which is exactly what insiders are predicting. At this point, the multiverse is so deeply tied into the DNA of Marvel's storytelling that it can't just be brushed aside, and Marvel knows this project has billion-dollar potential. Done right, World War Hulk could be the kind of event film that brings back audiences who grew up with the original Avengers. Fans want a darker, more mature take, and most importantly, the return of the furious, uncontrollable Hulk. For the story to land, it has to feel rooted in the current MCU, but still hit hard with something fresh and brutal. At one point, Cap America 4 was even rumored to serve as a kind of prelude to Hulk's solo return. That's where Red Hulk was introduced, and it seemed logical for that thread to continue in World War Hulk. But the movie ended up flopping at the box office, only making Marvel's slump worse. The studio knows it needs a comeback project, something big enough to breathe new life into the franchise. That's why Marvel is doubling down on nostalgic comebacks, bringing back Robert Downey Jr. and other veterans. But nostalgia alone isn't enough anymore. Hulk's solo film needs new writers, fresh energy, and a strong director. And when fans speculate about who that could be, one name keeps popping up: George Miller, the mastermind behind Mad Max. He's mentioned before that he'd love to work with Marvel, and if he had a choice, he'd go for Thor or Hulk. Of course, that's just fan dream territory right now, but imagine how perfect that fit would be. Miller knows how to craft massive, adrenaline-fueled spectacles that still carry weighty drama. If Marvel truly wants to reset the tone and visual identity of the MCU, a filmmaker like Miller could be the exact shot in the arm they need. World War Hulk wouldn't just bring Hulk back into the spotlight, it could re-establish Marvel as the studio fans trust to deliver the biggest, boldest blockbusters. As for the story itself, the pieces are already starting to line up. There are signs Hulk will play a significant role in Secret Wars. Leaked concept art even showed something called Hulk Village, a settlement featuring She-Hulk, Banner, and Scar. Basically, a full Hulk family. Judging by the artwork, they'll either be part of Battleworld or exist in some alternate universe. Details are still under wraps, but just seeing that concept is enough to hint that Hulk will remain a key player in Marvel's future arcs. And let's not forget what Kevin Feige said: Secret Wars will completely reshape the MCU. Every hero, without exception, will feel the ripple effects of that story. Add in the fact that Marvel went out of their way to trademark World War Hulk, and the picture becomes clearer. They're laying the groundwork for this solo film. On top of that, Doctor Doom could serve as the connective tissue, not only shaping the end of the multiverse saga, but also directly influencing what comes next, including Hulk's long-awaited return to the center stage. When it comes to the multiverse, fan theories are split. Some believe Marvel will tie everything back to a single sacred timeline, essentially wiping out alternate branches. But others think the opposite, that after Secret Wars, the multiverse will remain, just in a more balanced and stable form. The timelines won't be at war with each other anymore, which would actually give Marvel room to tell new stories without the constant chaos. If that's the case, World War Hulk could be the perfect follow-up, showing the fallout of a massive war while also giving Hulk a fresh starting point in this new era of the MCU. And this is where things get really interesting. The Future Imperfect arc. It's one of the darkest and most visually striking Hulk storylines, and it's tailor-made for adaptation. Marvel probably wouldn't adapt it panel for panel. Their usual method is to pull from several sources and blend them into one big puzzle. But Future Imperfect could inject the kind of originality the MCU desperately needs right now. At the heart of that arc is one of Hulk's most compelling villains, Maestro, a future version of Hulk who becomes a tyrant and dictator. Introducing Maestro on the big screen would be an absolute game changer. It would add a tragic, larger-than-life element to the story, and instantly give World War Hulk the weight and scale that fans expect from an event film. If you look back at the original World War Hulk storyline, it honestly doesn't line up with the MCU's direction at all. In the comics, Hulk comes back to Earth after Sakaar is destroyed, and he unleashes almost total devastation. He literally turns New York into a war zone, battling Earth's heroes and tearing everything down in his path. There is no way that Marvel Studios takes Mark Ruffalo's Hulk and just flips him into that kind of villain. I'm 100% certain that's not happening. But here's where it gets interesting. The title World War Hulk could easily be a play on words. Instead of one Hulk waging war against Earth, what if it's a war between Hulks? Different variants, pulled straight out of the multiverse, and that's where Maestro comes in. Maestro is the ultimate dark version of Hulk. First introduced in Future Imperfect, he's a version of Bruce Banner who lived through a post-apocalyptic nuclear war. Humanity was wiped out, radiation twisted everything, and Hulk survived. He lived for over 100 years, getting stronger every single day. But the stronger he became, the colder he got. All that's left is an iron-fisted tyrant ruling over the ashes of humanity. Maestro isn't just Hulk at his worst, he's Hulk at his smartest. That's what makes him terrifying. It's still Bruce Banner's mind, still his genius, but stripped of morality and empathy. Now imagine that version of Hulk stepping into the main MCU timeline. He doesn't want to be a savior, he wants to be a ruler, and he could set up something insane, a gladiator-style arena where different versions of Hulk are forced to fight. This could be Marvel's ace in the hole, their no way home moment, but for Hulk. Imagine bringing back Eric Bana and Edward Norton. Marvel could literally print money with that idea. And what if Norton's Hulk is Maestro? Maybe his version of Bruce went too far, lost himself, and eventually became this tyrant. That twist would blow the roof off theaters. It fits perfectly with how Future Imperfect works in the comics. Maestro is a future Hulk, so Marvel has the freedom to pull him from anywhere in the timeline. So while people might expect World War Hulk to just be a battle on Earth, it could be so much darker. If Marvel drops this, it's going to be a spectacle like nothing we've seen before. Fans won't just want to watch it once. They'll come back again and again, just like they did with Spider-Man and Deadpool. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some kind of announcement sooner rather than later. World of Hulks could very well be the next big event film on Marvel's slate.